Welcome to Wytpod. I'm Laura Faye. We have a special guest today, Desiree from Local Goods. I'm really excited to hear all about you and your company. So welcome.
Well, thank you, Laura. It's exciting to be here with Wytpods. I think it's a great opportunity to showcase and highlight a lot of the fantastic entrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you get started by telling me a little bit about yourself and your journey?
Sure, happy to do so. So Local Good, which is actually local-good.com, is a website that I had conceived of, oh gosh, probably 10 years ago, and had been thinking about it for quite a while and was very fortunate to get connected to my business partner, Chris Jesuits, here in Pittsburgh. And during the pandemic, we were like, there's not much going on. We really want to be able to do something to give back. And so it started out as a passion project. So we launched the website at the very height of the pandemic. I think it was right in October, November of 2020. And we launched with a few artists on the site. And since then, it's been growing. So not only do we help artists with selling their work, we give back to a charity of their choice. And we also connect into all of the shops that they work with, because we really want to make sure that it's super easy, no matter what city you go to find those local shops, those local art events, and those artists themselves, because that's the best part of connecting with an artist, is meeting them and hearing their story.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I love the giving back. Can you elaborate a little bit more on an overview of your brand as a whole?
Yeah, sure. So it's interesting because it constantly evolves. And as you're meeting new people, you really start to think about what's important to you. And at the core, what we've stayed true to is we get to know each and every single artist. Like, I know them all personally. I've either met them, we've connected virtually. We really take time to get to know each artist so that we can help them. We can figure out what it is that they need. We can figure out how to help them grow. And we really do it as a community. I don't do this alone. Chris doesn't do it this alone either. We actually have a host of interns kind of working behind the scenes. We
Okay.
give them a first opportunity to get a job right out of school. So we have marketing and social media interns. We have web design and development interns. And we really have brought this community together to rally around the same thing. And that is, how do we keep artists, how do we keep them going? How do we keep them self-sustaining? How do we really make sure that they have a platform that's in it for them and connects to them? So that's really been what our brand is about. It's really mission driven. We really want to make sure that we're helping to promote those artists, but we're finding really new and creative ways of helping others in the community. I mentioned the shops that we work with. You know, they're fantastic partners. We really want to keep them in business. And so they love, you know, shouting out to us and making sure they're tagging us on all of their any sort of their social media. We do the same for them. And so it really is about a full 360 community. How do we keep those artists going? How do we find those individuals who want to work behind the scenes to keep them going? How do we make sure that we're finding places where we could all connect together? And that's really what this business has been about and how it's evolved over the last few years.
That's really interesting. I love that. I love the passion and the caring. Would you say that Local Good has almost provided a platform for up and coming stars, if you want to put it like that?
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, as a business person, you start to think about how do you connect with people and how do you grow your business. And what I've found is when you really just try hard to just focus on one thing, the universe has a way of kind of getting in the way and
Yeah.
brings lots of things to you. We focus on those artists, those emerging artists. We focus on those artists who are actually already pretty well into their career and just wanting to grow. We're focusing on those artists who are really wanting to get to that next level, because it's hard doing it alone.
Yeah.
But then also working with the people behind the scenes, you know, we're finding these really smart individuals. There's a school out of Nashville software school, and they work with people who are retuning their skills and they're really wanting to go into that new space. They've brought us a plethora of people to help us on the back end with the site. And it's great for us because we're working with really excited, motivated people that are new to the industry. And then we're able to actually help them with getting that first job. The same thing with artists. There are some artists that have come to us that they've never been online. They've never been on social media. Like, they don't know how to do any of that. We really do try to rally around them and help them figure out what they need to get them to that next level. And that's really what it's been about, is that problem solving aspect. It really has been about what each artist needs so that they can position themselves for that next level. And so it's fun to watch them grow. It's fun to see as people are like, hey, they're now getting followings. They're now getting more people that are that their eyes are on them. We have one artist out of North Carolina, Tori Solomon. Sorry, she was out of North Carolina for a while. She's in New Mexico now. She
Oh,
actually has shops she's working with in New Mexico, in North Carolina, in Pittsburgh. And some of them she got connected to through us. Some of them she connected us to them. And so it's been a really awesome community, and watching it grow and and just, you know, expand has been terrific.
I love that. Now, I know you mentioned, with COVID and everything, it kind of got you here, but what made you get started in the business to begin with? Like, what are your passions at the core?
Yeah, so I'm not an artist. Everyone assumes that I'm an artist. This is my
Yeah.
website, because there are a lot of great artists who that's how they started. They started with their website and then they expanded it. I'm not. I'm actually a process improvement person by trade. I work in the healthcare industry. I actually have a day job. I'm very, very thrilled that I have been able to do both. I work for a fantastic, very large employer here in Pittsburgh, and they have given me the bandwidth to be able to connect the dots at work and to really figure out how we're working with physicians and members and our client community. And I've leveraged those same skills that I use at work to start thinking about this community. It's the same thing. How
Right.
do you find all of these amazing humans who are like, you know what? I don't want to shop at the big box stores. I want to support local art. I like handcrafted. How do we reach those people? Because they're out there. They're me, they're you, they're others. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of hard though. It's hard sometimes to figure out where to go in each city, what art events going on. So that's really where I came up with the idea. Connecting it back to charity was honestly because of the community. Every time I would talk to an artist, they would tell me about a passion they had for a particular charity. They would tell me about how they had their own medical issues and were supporting a charity. I was learning how giving these individuals were. Just
Wow.
amazing humans who were really involved in their community. And they inspired me to think about what would that look like? How
Yeah.
could I help them amplify their voice, but also amplify the charity that they care about? And
Right.
then as we're getting further into it, started realizing there were those connections with those shops. And we would often be running in the same circles. And so somebody would say, well, do you know Nancy at Ketchup City Creative? Do you know Debbie down at Songbird Artistry? And meeting them, realized they had the same passion too. And so that's how all three of those communities really got together, really working with that artist to reach those new audiences, really working with that artist to connect to those shops to connect back to the audiences, because we're all interconnected. And I think people forget that. And so that's really what my passion is about building those communities, whether it's at work, whether it's through local good. It's how do I bring all of these amazing humans together and really allow them to find one another so that they could support each other.
Yeah, I love that. And I typically ask, why local goods? What makes you different? But you mentioned so many things that make you different. So do you want to kind of put that all together in one or two statements of what really differentiates you? I mean, you mentioned so many amazing, amazing things, so I don't want to pick and choose from them. But what would you say if you were talking to somebody and you said, we're different because?
Yeah, so for an artist, I think we're absolutely different because of that personal touch and that personal connection, and really about figuring out who they are and where they want to go and what are those barriers along the way so that we can help them get over that. And
Yeah,
so it is like a support network. It is like a, social media marketing, web online platform. It is everything that really surrounds them. And with each artist, it's completely different. And it is that connection back to them and getting to know them that really makes us different.
that
We really want to make sure that they are supported, that they have what they need. And you can't do that in a large organization. You can't do that necessarily with a just an online presence. It really does take that human connection. So that's the biggest way I think we're different for artists. I
yeah,
think for our buyers, we're different because we're making it easy for them to find these local artists. And we're making it easy for them to get to know the artists. We do articles on all of our artists. We make sure we're featuring them on social media. We have marketing in the background that we're featuring them. We really want people to have that connection. And so it's not just about buying that piece of art, it is about having that opportunity to learn about that artist, just like you would if you met them at a show. And
That-
that's really what our intention is, because that's my favorite part. I just got back from California and I had a great time, connecting into that community and getting to see some of the different beaches, some of the different places. But the one thing I realized is I had a hard time finding artists. I
Right,
really struggled to find those shops that have local art. I struggled to find art events. And it
right.
reminded me and renewed the fire in me about, hey, let's make this easier so that when I'm traveling, when others are traveling, when somebody who really does care about local restaurants and local shops and those local artists, let's make it easier for them to find them. And so
Yeah,
that's really at the heart of it for those buyers. That's what this is. This is a one-stop shop where they can go and they can find all of that, because
I,
there are a lot of people who care about where they spend their money. They're excited about making sure they're giving to that local shop or
ab-
that artist themselves or that handmade gift. I mean, that's my motivation, is how do we make it easier to connect all those people?
I like that. And now you touched on something very important about being found, right? Getting a name for yourself, getting an artist's work out there, whatever it may be. So as for local goods, what have you found to be your most effective marketing strategy so that local good can be found?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard out there. It's hard getting attention out there. It's hard getting a name out there. And so any entrepreneur will tell you it's a constant, trying to get your presence out there, trying to get found. What we've honestly found is it's our followers, it's the people who actually are connected into the site, who subscribe to our newsletter, and they are reading about all these great artists. And it's our amazing team behind the scenes that's working on all of that.
Right,
We have found that that's where we get a lot of attention, is just from there. We're working on social media and expanding that out, but like all things, it's, one of 8,000 things you have to do as an entrepreneur. So we
yeah,
really do depend on our followers to like and share our content, to, read our newsletters, to share it with other people, to remember us. Because if they love what they read in January, but by the time June comes around and they're buying gifts for graduation and for weddings, if they've forgotten, then that's really hard. So you got to stay in front of them. You got to remind them of this amazing community, and you got to keep growing the community. And that's the fun part, is
yeah,
we're really in a growing stage. So we're looking for artists. We are looking to connect with really great artists, but more than just great artists, great humans. And there are some people we've met along the way who've been fantastic artists who haven't necessarily connected with our community. And
yeah.
so we wish them well, and we know there's a million different places they can sell their work, but we want to make sure we're also working with people who are really good humans and who really do want to be part of the community, because those artists themselves are going to then, highlight that they're with us, and they're going to remember to tag us in all of their social media and marketing. And we're going to tag them, and we're going to write those articles, and they're going to reshare them. And that's that reciprocal arrangement that's so important, that really does propel that community, our community, ahead.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense, and I love everything that you're saying. I can feel the warmth from your heart coming through the podcast, and I genuinely mean that. You can tell because you could see your passion and your excitement, and it's just very, very refreshing, and it's much appreciated. You said that your biggest challenge was finding artists, right?
I would say it's our biggest challenge. I think that's where we're at now, is we're
Okay,
ready. So it took a little while to find our rhythm. It took a little while to really create the site, create the
right,
community. And so now we're in a growth period. Now we're really, buckling down, saying, let's get some more artists on the site. Because at first we wanted to go a little slow. We wanted to be intentional. We wanted to really figure out everything on the back end. We wanted to make sure everything was set up. We wanted to make sure we have the structure, because it doesn't do any good as an entrepreneur if you go too fast and you don't have structure in place, then you don't have that solid foundation. So right now we are in the process of making some updates on the site, because the site needed a little bit of a refresher, and we wanted to make it easier for our buyers to be able to shop. So there's lots of different ways. If you go to local-good.com, lots of different ways where you can find it, an artist by a city or by a medium, or if you're looking for a particular gift. We wanted to put all those little bits of bells and whistles in there to make it easier for those shoppers. So now that all of that's structured, now is the time where we're looking for artists. So if there are any artists looking at this site, go out there, certainly apply, because we want to make sure this is a good space for everyone. And we think we're finally there. And so now we're really excited to start meeting those artists. And as I mentioned, I meet with every single artist. I want to know who they are. They all have my contact information. They could all reach out. We'll help them along the way. But yeah, so now is the time where we're really wanting to reach them. And I thought my trip for California, I was like, oh, I'm going to find a ton of artists out there. It was a struggle. It really was. And it reminded me of how hard it is for an
Yeah.
artist. If you're on the summer circuit, trying to make your way through all the different art events or art shows, it's hard. You're spending a lot of time and energy months before making all that work. You then have to travel, which is a huge expense. You're away from your friends, you're away from your family. You go to these events, you hope that you sell out at the event, but then that brings its own host of problems because that means you have to make all new stuff. If
Yeah.
you don't sell out, means you probably didn't make enough money. And so we are kind of that companion to them, because they could say, hey, you found me here, you could also find me on LocalGood. Or after this event, find me at LocalGood. And then that way we almost are there to kind of support them on that back end. So if that person who bought those pair of earrings decides they want to buy two more, makes it easy to find them. If that person didn't buy those pair of earrings and has regret and wants to buy them, then they can also find them. So right now is the perfect time to grow our artists and make sure that they are able to shine. But it's a hard time because it is summer and they're super busy trying to just get their wares out there and trying to get their items out there. So it's
Abs-
always a tough position to be in of what's the right time to connect with those artists.
Absolutely. No, understandable, understandable. If I had that infamous crystal ball that every business owner wishes that they had to see the future, what do you see in that crystal ball? What's your goal? Where do you see the company going?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our original intent was really to get the Pittsburgh market locked down. And then the pandemic really changed that. And we are finding artists from all kinds of areas. And I didn't want to say no to them. So
Yeah,
this year, we really are focused on making sure we're connected into a large group of Pittsburgh artists, making sure we're connected into a large group of those shop owners here in Pittsburgh. We're connected to 4 shops already.
yeah,
But we really want to figure out what that structure and that model looks like, because then we really do want to expand it. We have artists throughout, I think we're in 7 or 8 different states now. So I
yeah,
want to do the same thing with those states. I want to make sure that in every major city that we have those connections and we've built that foundation to support those artists.
yeah,
And so once we're able to, in the next year, really figure out what that secret model looks like with Pittsburgh, that's really where I want to start expanding it. And right next to us, obviously, we have got Philly on one side. I've got, Columbus, Ohio on the other side. It's like, those are our next markets. We were down in New Orleans earlier this year and met some amazing artists, and they were hustling every night of the week. They're hustling down at their events, and they're tired though. They're like, I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. And so
yeah,
that's where I go back to, well, what do? You don't want to sell everything online. You want to have that in-person presence. So what's that balance look like? So
yeah,
I really want to make sure we're that balance for these artists. And so I'd say this next year is really getting Pittsburgh solidified and then starting to expand out to these other cities and replicating exactly what we're doing here, making sure we're finding those people who really are amazing artists, but amazing humans, making sure we're finding those buyers who are like, yes, I want to support them, and
yeah,
keeping those shops going because it's hard. And I don't know about you, but I know at least 3 shops that went under in the last couple of years because they just couldn't keep the doors open. It's
yeah.
hard.
It
So
is.
we need to make sure we continue to remind those people who are interested in local, interested in handcrafted, making sure they remember where to go, making sure they know, how to connect into that community and to support those artists and support those shops.
Well, I have a funny feeling you're going to be doing an absolutely perfect job of that. I have no doubts, no concerns with your genuine care and concern and passion. That is a recipe for success mixed with the talent that you bring. So I want to tell you, it's been a pleasure learning about you and hearing your story, and I'm looking so forward to what the future brings for Local Good. Thank you, Desiree, so much for sharing all of that with me today.
Oh, thank you, Laura. I am grateful to the podcast. I think this is fantastic that you all want to feature entrepreneurs because
Yeah.
they all need some love and support too, because it's not easy to go it alone. And hopefully all of them have a good community around them as well.
Absolutely. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a beautiful day.